The badge is meant to protect and serve. But what happens when the ones who wear it become predators in disguise? Across America, some officers have crossed the line, not by mistake, but by choice. They use their positions to manipulate, control, kill, and exploit. These weren't small lapses in judgment. They were massive abuses of power. Today, we expose 5 of the most corrupt male cops in U.S. history. Their crimes were shocking. Their sentences, even more so. These cases are a chilling reminder. Not all threats come from the streets. Sometimes they come from behind the badge. Once a respected sergeant in Bolingbrook, Illinois, Drew Walter Peterson was the picture of a seasoned cop. Confident, sarcastic, and media-friendly, he didn't just wear the badge. He played the role of the good cop flawlessly. But beneath the surface, Peterson had a dark and violent secret. He joined the Bolingbrook Police Department in 1977. A military-trained MP, he climbed the ranks, gaining the respect of some and the fear of others. Married 4 times, Peterson fathered 6 children. But each relationship ended in turmoil. In March 2004, his 3rd wife, Kathleen Savio, was found dead in a bathtub. It was originally ruled accidental, a slip and fall. But Savio had warned people, if she turned up dead, Peterson would be responsible. Still, no charges were filed. The case was closed. This time, he had played his game so well, but eyes were watching. Something scary was coming. Then, in 2007, Peterson's 4th wife, Stacy Peterson, was just 23 when she vanished without a trace. Now it seemed like it was no mere coincidence. Their marriage was about 4 years and 10 days at the time of her disappearance.
We as a family really didn't get to know Stacy until after the marriage. But what we could see in Drew's relationships, it was this pattern of behavior, abusive behavior.
Her disappearance reignited suspicion, leading investigators to exhume his 3rd wife, Savio's body. They found bruises and a scalp gash that indicated foul play and struggle. This was not a normal bathtub drowning incident. By February 2008, her death was ruled a homicide. Suddenly, Peterson was no longer a grieving husband. He was a suspect in a murder. After the night of Stacy's disappearance, Peterson quickly alleged she had left him for another man and taken $25,000 from their home. He also said she had abandoned their 2 young children, Anthony and Lacey. Her family, however, found this hard to believe and stated that Stacy would never leave her kids behind. Soon after, suspicions mounted against Drew, particularly when his stepbrother, Thomas Morphy, told investigators he had helped Drew move a large blue plastic container from the bedroom to his vehicle on the night his wife went missing. In 2009, Drew Peterson was arrested and charged with Savio's murder. Despite the lack of direct witnesses, hearsay evidence, admissible under a new Illinois law dubbed Drew's Law, sealed his fate. In 2012, Drew Peterson was convicted of first-degree murder in Savio's case and sentenced to 38 years in prison. You think that was the end? No, far from it. While behind bars, Peterson attempted to hire someone to kill the state's attorney who prosecuted him, James Glasgow. He was caught on tape. Another conviction, another 40 years. Peterson is now serving time at an Indiana facility where his charm has faded and his legacy is stained forever. With a total sentencing to 78 years and possible release by 2081 if he is still alive by then. A former cop turned calculated killer. He didn't just break the law. He thought he was above it. He wasn't. Justice caught up. This next cop took the law right into his hands. The racist thought he could play with it the way he liked, but it became too hot for him to handle. Keep watching to find out how the law fought back. Few names have become as globally infamous in such a short span of time as Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer whose actions ignited a worldwide reckoning on race, police brutality, and justice. On May 25, 2020, Chauvin arrested George Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, for allegedly using a counterfeit $20 bill. What followed wasn't just excessive force. It was a slow, deliberate killing captured on camera. From the body cam video, Floyd could be heard saying, "Please don't shoot me. Please don't kill me," visibly anxious. Chauvin paid no concern. He brought him out of the vehicle and knelt on Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Despite Floyd's repeated cries of, "I can't breathe," and bystanders begging Chauvin to stop, he never lifted his knee. George Floyd died in the street, handcuffed, face down, while Chauvin kept his hands casually in his pockets. You see, Derek Chauvin was no rookie. 44 years old, white, and a 19-year veteran of the Minneapolis Police Department. On his record, 18 civilian complaints, 2 reprimands. And now, he was about to make his legacy. The video of Floyd's death went viral. Millions watched in horror. Protests erupted across all 50 states and in cities around the globe. Black Lives Matter became not just a rallying cry, but a movement re-energized by tragedy. Chauvin was fired, arrested, and charged with second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. In April 2021, a jury found him guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison, one of the longest sentences ever handed down to a U.S. police officer for killing a civilian. But that wasn't the end. In 2022, Chauvin pleaded guilty to separate federal civil rights violations, adding another 21 years to his prison time. Chauvin served time in a federal prison in Arizona. However, he was transferred out after he was stabbed multiple times by an inmate. Following the stabbing incident, Chauvin was transferred to the Federal Correctional Institution in Big Spring, Texas, a low-security federal prison. With credit for time served and standard reductions, his projected release date is in 2037. Isolated from the general population for his own safety, he lives in a cell surrounded by silence, the same silence he ignored as George Floyd begged for air. Derek Chauvin's case wasn't just about one man's brutality. It exposed the systemic failures of policing, accountability, and racial injustice. His uniform, once a symbol of protection, became a global symbol of oppression. And while justice came late, it came loud, echoing in courtrooms, protests, and history books. Up next is a domestic police officer whose actions shook Ohio. Before we continue, don't forget to click the subscribe button if you really enjoy this video. Bobby Cutts Jr. lived a double life, one that ended in unimaginable tragedy. As a Canton, Ohio police officer, he appeared to be a model public servant. But in 2007, his name became linked to a chilling crime that would haunt the community forever. Jessie Davis, his pregnant ex-girlfriend, was reported missing. Davis's mother visited her home and found just her toddler son Blake alone, wandering around their home. His words to this grandmother? "Mommy's in the rug." The case gained national attention as a desperate search began. For days, Cutts denied involvement, but evidence began to mount. Phone records, inconsistent alibis, and physical traces linked him to the scene. Eventually, he led authorities to Jessie's buried body in a park. She had been strangled. Her unborn child, who was to be named Chloe, died with her. The motive? Cutts testified that during a heated confrontation, Davis refused to let him leave her home. He claimed she bit his finger, prompting him to react by striking her with his elbow in the throat area. He said this blow caused her to fall backward and lose consciousness. However, prosecutors argued the blow wasn't accidental. Assistant Prosecutor Dennis Barr stated, "He knew he was suffocating Jessie. He was strangling Jessie. He was killing that baby inside of her." The act was portrayed as intentional killing, driven by his frustration and desperation, not a split-second accident. In February 27, 2008, he was convicted of murder, abuse of a corpse, and child endangerment. He narrowly avoided the death penalty, but received 57 years to life. Behind bars, Cutts is no longer an officer or a father, just a number in Ohio's prison system. As of July 2025, Bobby has served approximately 17 years of his sentence, and he is currently serving his sentence at the Marion Correctional Institution in Ohio. Now let's take a look at the fate of the most corrupt cop in Chicago history. Joseph Miedzianowski wasn't just a dirty cop. He was a full-blown drug lord operating from inside the Chicago Police Department. Dubbed the most corrupt cop in Chicago history, Miedzianowski used his role in the narcotics unit to build a criminal empire. While arresting low-level dealers by day, he was selling and moving cocaine at night, sometimes using department resources to do it. He had a network of criminals, crooked officers, and gang affiliates. Miedzionowski even recruited other cops into his operation, giving them a cut of the action in exchange for their silence or help. He supplied weapons, falsified reports, and kept the streets dangerous by protecting the worst offenders. He did all of these while earning commendations. What made his case truly disturbing was the depth of infiltration. He didn't just skirt the rules, he rewrote them for his own gain. Whistleblowers tried to raise red flags, but his influence and intimidation kept investigations at bay for years. Eventually, the FBI and DEA caught wind of his operation. In 1998, a massive corruption case was opened. After wiretaps, surveillance, and testimonies from former associates, Miedzionowski was arrested and charged with racketeering, drug trafficking, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. In 2001, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. The court called him a one-man crime wave with a badge. He now serves his sentence in a federal lockup with no chance of parole. Once a rising star in the CPD, Miedzionowski's name is a dark stain on the city's law enforcement history. His life actions were proof that even a well-polished badge can hide the dirtiest intentions. Oklahoma City officer Daniel Holtzclaw didn't just abuse his power, he shattered lives with it. His crimes were not crimes of greed, but of predatory violence. Between 2013 and 2014, Holtzclaw sexually assaulted over a dozen black women, all while in uniform. His targets were carefully chosen. He picked women with prior records, financial struggles, or little social power. He knew they'd be afraid to speak up. He knew most wouldn't be believed. He would pull women over during traffic stops, threaten arrest, and force them into indecent acts with him, sometimes on the street, sometimes in the back seat of his patrol car. It was a campaign of fear, manipulation, and systematic sexual violence. One woman eventually came forward. Her courage opened the floodgates. One by one, more victims shared their stories. The pattern was undeniable. DNA evidence sealed the case. In 2015, Holtzclaw faced 36 counts of sexual assault, rape, stalking, and misconduct. The trial was emotional and brutal, with victims forced to relive trauma in front of their attacker. The jury convicted him on 18 counts. His sentence? 263 years in prison. Today, Holtzclaw is locked away in a high-security prison, surrounded by the kind of people he once claimed to protect society from. But the true victims were the women he exploited, women whose only crime was being vulnerable in the presence of someone sworn to protect. Holtzclaw's case became a national flashpoint about race, power, and abuse within the justice system. It's a chilling example of how predators can weaponize authority, and how courage, eventually, can bring even the worst monsters to justice. These 5 men were trusted, respected, and armed with authority. They used that power not to serve, but to violate. From murder and drug trafficking to sexual assault and betrayal, their stories remind us that the badge is no guarantee of integrity. Justice eventually caught up with them, but not before lives were lost. Trust was shattered, and entire communities were shaken. One thing to keep in mind is, when power is unchecked, corruption follows. And when the law fails from within, the fallout is devastating. Click here to watch more.